this is loud. Welcome to this next panel. The title of the panel is Incentivizing Positive Innovation, Advancing Climate Resilience, Environmental Protection, and Conflict Prevention with Inclusive Technology. We will be speaking in the English language, so if you need translation equipment, please ask them from the staff there. Yeah? All right, so if anyone needs it, you can go ahead and take it there. So I have the honor to briefly introduce our panelists. So we welcome Elvira Fortunato. She's the Minister of Science, Technology and Higher Education of the Portuguese Republic. And what I asked of everyone is a fun fact. And the fun fact is, since 2nd of April, Ms. Fortunato is not a minister anymore, so but she's a scientist. We welcome Ayumi Mor Aoki. She's the founder and CEO of Women in Tech Global. And here's a fun fact, really interesting fun fact. So the first event, they didn't have any funding. So they sold T-shirts to get money for the funding. And the funny thing is, the police confiscated everything. So that's a really great way to start.
You have to be resilient because really.
Exactly. And we welcome Hava Malioko. She's the Senior Digital Marketing Manager at LinkedIn. And also she has a very fun fact. She actually went to the US twice without her passport. That's very Albanian.
Anybody wants to hear a little bit more about that story?
Yeah, probably.
Sure. So the first time I went to US without a passport was when I was 16. That was my first time traveling actually outside the country and going to such a big country like US. It was just right after war, 2 years after, so of course we didn't have any documentation or identification. I just got accepted for an exchange student in Westchester, Pennsylvania. And of course the US Embassy just pretended to give me some documentation, so just gave me like a letter. So basically I went to US with just one letter and it wasn't even a passport. And the second time, which is even more funny, this was actually later, much later. We were doing a road trip actually with my brother, who's in the audience here. We were going from San Francisco down to Las Vegas to San Diego. And we're like, oh, let's just see how Mexico is. Let's just go to the border and see the, just the houses. And we get there, and to our surprise, there was no border. It was just like a highway. There was no way to stop. And so we ended up in Mexico, and being adventurous like I am, let's just drink a coffee first and then come back. So we drank coffee, and our way back, of course, we only had a driving license, and we got stopped in the border. And we stayed there for hours. It was not funny at that point because we were seeing lots of drug dealers and people that were getting stopped. But anyways, at some point they let us in. But it was just another time that I came to US without passport, without no identification whatsoever.
So anyone who wants to travel to the US without a passport, take notes.
Yes, please.
And we welcome Tamara Srzentic. She's the Minister of Public Administration, Digital Society and Media of Montenegro. She was, sorry, from 2020 to 2022. We also have a fun fact, but in this case, Tamara is going to tell it through a story, so maybe we can do it, right?
All right, it's more sobering than fun. I have to say, Hava is the most amazing bureaucracy hacker, and I'm definitely going to try to hack bureaucracy with her. So, a long time ago, I was asked to introduce myself by creating a short, 40-second speech that really exemplifies what's my why, what's my North Star. So I'm just going to read through it quickly. 1999, I was 16 years old when war raged in Kosovo. Thousands of people were killed and hundreds fled to neighboring countries. Many of them arrived in my home country, Montenegro, overcrowding my little town, Ulcinj, at the Adriatic coast. It was filled with throngs of desperate people looking for help for many of them, everyday comforts that we take for granted, like a safe place to sleep, consistent sources of food, and warm clothes were dire issues. My sister and I quickly mobilized a group of students that worked with the city, UN, and local businesses to collect and donate food and hygienic supplies and find shelter. During their time of need, we wanted to provide comfort and hope. This drawing from a 10-year-old Kosovar girl was given to me and my sister to say thank you. And just to this day, this drawing reminds me that when community comes together to solve problems, anything is possible. Community collaboration, empathy, and human-centered approaches to solving problems have been at the core of my mission. And I'm a passionate public servant, had the privilege to serve in American and Montenegrin government, trying to put people at the center of how government delivers its services, and super privileged to be here with you all.
That's really a moving story. So, thank you, Tamara. And next we have Abetora Goiane. Fun fact, she's from Jakova. And I mean, it's not a fun fact, but we like to joke about it sometimes. And warm welcome for Teuta Saatshia. I mean, it's her birthday today, so a round of applause. And me, I am Genshala. I will be moderating this panel. I'm head of operations of Numarix. Numarix is a fintech. We mainly operate in Switzerland, so with business administration. So I'll start with Ms. Fortunato. Given Portugal's success in fostering innovation, do you believe that the European Union should impose stricter regulations on member states to ensure uniform progress in combating climate change through technology?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. And before going directly to the question, first of all, I would like to acknowledge to the President of the Republic of Kosovo for the invitation. Also, it is for me a great opportunity and also an honor to be here. Also, as you mentioned, I just would like to give a short bio from ourselves. So I'm a professor at the Material Science Department. I work on microelectronics and semiconductors at Nova University in Lisbon. Since then, also, I was vice rector of my university for the research area. I became also a chief scientific advisor of the European Commission with the Commissioner Carlos Moedas between 2015 and 2020. And more recently, I became a Minister for Science, Technology and Higher Education for the last 2 years. I finished my mandate in the 2nd of April, but it was also a very honor, and I'm quite proud for the work that we have done. Concerning the question about technologies and regulations, also I would like to say something a little bit previously, and fits a little bit with the DNA of this forum. As you know, the education, I guess, and also in my opinion, is the foundation and is the solution for all the problems that we are facing, not only in gender equality, but also in war, in all the problems in climate change, all the problems that we are facing in our society. In my opinion, the solution is education. And also, this is particular for me because I'm a professor, so I have the responsibility to teach the new generation, the new engineers, the new researchers for the world. And if we do this in a proper way, starting inside our home, starting also in the kindergartens, I guess we will have a brilliant and a much brighter future. So I would like to say something related to this point, because I guess education is the solution for all the problems that we are facing. And this belongs to us. This is in our hands to do it.
Absolutely. Thank you for this really good insight. We will come back to that. Maybe we will discuss also about online education, which is something very relatable to that. Next, Ayumi, a little bit of your background, please, and then we can immediately start with a question regarding the woman in tech?
Sure. I'm going to try and make the background very short. But so I was born in Brazil. I grew up in South Africa during apartheid. That's where my women advocacy started when I was still a young teenager. And then afterwards, I traveled the world and I ended up in France. I went into a different career, and at the age of 30, I decided to change. I changed jobs, I changed husbands, and I came into tech. That was 15 years ago. For 10 years, I really focused on growing my company, growing my family. I had 2 more children. Until 6, 7 years ago, I had like another great time of my life where I decided, instead of focusing on myself, I said, 10 years before, I was asking myself, how do I want my life to be, etc. And that's when I pivoted into technology. And then 10 years later, I said, how do I want the world to be? And this is, I had to say, I have to give back to the world, to the community, to women. And I want to make sure that there are more women in technology. And that's when I started Women in Tech. I started back then selling T-shirts. And here we are today. So we have over close to 300,000 members across the world. We are headquartered in Paris, but we have 54 countries, chapters, official chapters, including in Kosovo, here in the Republic of Kosovo. And I'm very, very proud and honored to have Tilta with us, who was the director for Kosovo. Another fun fact is that we met in New York in 2019, when she was ambassador of Kosovo for Kosovo, yes, in the United States, in New York. That's how we met, and we kept in contact. And here we are today, sharing the same panel. And it's my very first time in Kosovo, so I'm super, super happy. I hope that was short.
Thank you. So the first question is, how would you respond to, let's say, critics who argue that women's empowerment in tech could be more effective if it were less about gender and more about skill-based opportunities? I know it's quite a direct question, but this is something that...
It's good to be direct. No, I've got no problem with that.
Yeah.
First of all, I first say that people who are always criticizing, those are generally the people who are not taking action, right? So if they criticize, why are we focusing on gender and stuff? What are you doing? First, what are they doing? Because if you look at the numbers today, the numbers speak for themselves, right? All around the world, there are about 20%, less than 20% of ICT professionals are women. If you look at AI, and God knows how AI is revolutionizing the whole world, right? The way we take communications, the way we work, the way we do things, and 6% of AI developers are women. We cannot say that there's going to be a fair world if women are underrepresented in these subjects, in these sectors that represent also most of the jobs in the future, the best paid jobs, and also the ones who are going to be the most prominent in 2030. There was a study that was done in 2019 that said 85% of the jobs back then in 2030 did not exist, and all of them are going to be coming from these new technologies, and not including women is going to be not only a big deficit for the skilled labor, but also for the social and ethical causes, because we are going to have bias in all these technologies, and we want to have technology that's going to be answering for the needs of the whole of the society, including women, which is just 50% of the world, right? So I think those are who we have to have a gender lens in everything we do today, whether it's climate, whether it's education, whether it's AI. If you don't have this gender lens, we are leaving people behind. So we have to have it. And once we've got gender parity, then we can talk about other things. But right now we don't have it. So.
All right, you are, and some very good insights on that. Thank you. We move on to Hava next. And this question is mainly about, let's say, about regions. And given that Hava is in LinkedIn, how has LinkedIn been instrumental in shaping professional networks globally? Do you think that the platform has done enough to amplify voices from regions like the Balkans, which are striving to make a mark in the tech world? We know recently, which you also have had quite an important role to add Kosovo in the list of countries in LinkedIn. So,
thank you again for the question. Just a little background about me. For those of you that don't know, my name is Hova. I was born in Kosovo. I lived here until age 18. After that, I had the opportunity to go to the United States. I got a scholarship to study there, and I just went on from undergrad, grad, and PhD. For the last 15 years, I've been working in the marketing field, not because I chose to, but because that's how the circumstances came about. I finished in finance, actually, but because of the financial crash, I ended up in marketing, and I love it. It's been a great ride. I worked for different companies in the Bay Area, mostly San Francisco, including Visa, Expedia, LegalZoom, and the last one, LinkedIn. To answer your question, I'm just going to go straight to it. I think LinkedIn is doing a great job amplifying the voices across not just the Balkans, everywhere in the world. I think the people in Balkans or the creators should not feel like they are discriminated or their voices cannot be heard, because LinkedIn is all about inclusivity and diversity, and that's our main core, not only for our employees but also for our content creators. So at any point that if any of you or anybody in the Balkans feels that, oh no, my voice cannot be heard, that's just not right. Indeed, there are some barriers, and yes, language may be it, because if you don't speak very good English, maybe it's not, you cannot write good content, or it could be also cultural barrier. For example, you don't really know how the content creators across the world are engaging, so it's a little bit different coming from a different culture. However, those can be overcome by few steps, and I'm just going to name few because I can talk about this topic for hours, and I only have 3 minutes. Mainly, you have to focus on your profile first. Make sure your profile represents you, because it's a mirror of your brand. It's your resume online. Make sure it has a professional picture. Make sure it has the headline that is inviting, and all the credentials that you want to be mentioned are there. So start by foundation, which is your profile. Next is figure out a niche or the audience that you want to target. Indeed, if you want to write, for example, in Albanian, you have to be mindful that you can only reach Albanian-speaking people. That can be in Kosovo, Albania, or Macedonia, or Montenegro, or anywhere in diaspora, but it's small. So if you want to go further than that, you have to keep in mind English. You have to learn English or to post in English. Third thing, and which is, again, very important, is your content. You got to have great content. People come in platform to learn something, to get inspired, or lastly, to entertain. If your content doesn't do any of these things, then you are in for a failure. So keep in mind you have to have some great content to share. And then also engagement is super important, and collaboration with other content creators, or also like responding to comments, because you have to be active. You cannot just post and then go to sleep and then not worry anymore. You have to be active. You have to be present in the platform. Additionally, you have to have some consistency, and not just and consistency can be different for everybody. It can be once a week or once in 2 weeks, once a month, but you have to keep that consistency. And then lastly, just to keep it short, you have to be authentic. I cannot stretch this enough. Authenticity is the key to amplify your voice. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the information can be found anywhere. Just go to ChatGPT, YouTube, Google, anywhere. The information is there. People are not going just to see another information in LinkedIn. They're going to see you. They want to hear a story from you. You have to put something that is unique, that is sharing something with the audience that nobody else can do. And if you have that, then yes, your voice can be amplified for sure. And just to give a quick example, I checked the data lately, and one of the guys from Bosnia, I'm not going to mention the name, is the top 3% of creators worldwide. And he lives in Bosnia, in the Balkans, and he's made it. So don't feel like you cannot do it. Just put in the work, and you're going to get there. Thank you.
Thank you for the really good insight. And I think, since also Elvira mentioned education and the importance of education, how important it would be to include, let's say, these words that you said, or basically opening a LinkedIn account in high school. So start from there, right? Learn
Indeed.
the basics from there.
Yes.
So.
Start as early as you can, and start connecting as early as you can. That's how you can find your college, for example, your professors, and yeah, can't stretch that enough.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Ava. We'll get back again. Tamara, we will definitely talk a little bit about your background, but I will go ahead and ask the question, and then you can give us a little bit more of information about your background and experience with rebooting governments and democracies, especially with the times of conflict and crisis, while ensuring inclusivity. So you have developed a global reputation for introducing the culture, practices, and technologies of the digital era to help governments. You have a rich background in public services, spanning in continents, as well as leading digital transformation during crisis. So you especially served in leadership roles in governments in the USA and Europe, and in the United States you led digital service reform initiatives as part of the Obama's White House and the state of California, Governor Newsom's team, and the past couple of years you've been a Minister of Public Administration of the Digital Transformation. What can you tell about these experiences and how they helped you shape basically the services in your country?
Thank you. I'm just going to piggyback out of amazing insights that my brilliant panelists have already shared. Can you hear me? Oh. Try it one more time. Oh, closer. Okay. Well, it's incredible. We all kind of come from different industries, but our common thread and mission is to elevate and empower humans, especially women, through skills, through education, amplifying their voices. At the core of my mission has been to make governments work better by putting people at the center. And often it's the women and underserved minorities that end up not getting served or getting underserved, right? So as you said, I had privilege to first work in support Obama's administration, work in government Newsom's administration, and then got pulled when the government of Montenegro changed 4 years ago. And had the most rewarding opportunity of my lifetime to serve as a minister there, but I've realized no matter how big or small the country is, whether it's like the 5th largest economy in the world, government of California, or a tiny country in the Western Balkans, Montenegro, we all have similar challenges. We are stifled with calcified bureaucratical processes in government. So what we have become, our teams, really good at is crisis re-engineering. We didn't let a good crisis go to waste. So we were often charged with whether it's the COVID-19 or in Obama's presidency case, his flagship policy, healthcare.gov, was implemented through a website, but the website didn't work. It actually failed on a day it was supposed to be launched. And so the president brought in folks from Google. They had 3 weeks to essentially fix the website. That was a good exercise that has allowed the leadership in the White House to see how, by putting people at the center and by building iteratively, we can actually not just fix the website, but actually improve how the government works inside and out and how it serves the people. We can implement the same human-centered, agile, iterative processes, incorporating feedback by how we are making policies and how we are making programs, how we're designing programs, by building with the people. And so most of my career I've tried to fix the delivery muscle. And so in Montenegro, we've done the same, tried to apply the human-centered iterative approaches by not making assumptions about what people's needs are. When Ukrainian refugees fled to Montenegro, we were there at the borders, not assuming what they needed, but doing research. And we had a bunch of assumptions, but what they really needed is the connectivity with their families. So we've created Wi-Fi stations and made sure that they can connect with their loved ones. But it's all about leveraging data and research to actually create a better policy program and or streamline the process. So again, we talked about the conflict prevention. I flipped that into crisis reengineering, how we can create momentum in government and fix the delivery muscle. We talked a lot about at this conference around how a lot of times you're talking the talk, but how do governments actually walk the walk? Is by empowering humans, going back to what my panelists said, within governments with these tools and methodologies, often used in private sector, so they can actually dismantle these calcified bureaucracies, build a bit more agility into the DNA of how government works. And that's when we're going to make small but very meaningful wins over time. Thanks.
Thank you, Mara. Abetar, being as an executive director in IPCO Foundation, who do you think are the relevant stakeholders that you collaborate with, especially with the civil society? And do you think that the support of the local institutions is satisfactory in, let's say, your experience, also in your work? But first, give us a little bit of your background work, and then we can continue to connect with the question.
Yes, thank you, Gan. Hi, everyone. It's a pleasure to be among of this well-known group of panelists. I am Abetar Goyani. I run a local NGO for over 14 years now. It's called IPCO Foundation. It's a separate entity from IPCO Telecom. I have an MBA in Staffordshire University and a bachelor's at RIT Kosovo. With my experience, I think I'm known to for the youth empowerment, technological, social advocacy, and volunteerism, and empowering marginalized groups all across Kosovo and not only based in Pristina. So I believe this is the everyday mission of the organization that I run and that I wake up. Today, I would love to share also what we do as with the organization that I run in terms of inclusiveness in of young, maybe girls, and especially in rural areas through our programs, and of course share also the collaboration that we have with institutions in Kosovo that is not very easy. Basically, we run programs as Girls in ICT, DokuTech. I'm also as part of the team who founded DokuTech and brought to the festival DokuFest in Prizren. So we added up the tech component of DokuTech, and with initiatives like this or programs like this, we tend to promote gender equality and empowerment. We go through, actually my team usually travels about 30,000 kilometers per week to go and outreach all those marginalized groups that never heard about technology, do not have access to internet, they do not have laptops. We tend to create super simple activities, like from events that when we bring inspiring role models to talk to them, to the most complex activities like DokuTech. We had for the first time last year Mira Murati and OpenAI as part of DokuTech to basically fulfill the informal part of education in Kosovo and offer more practical learning or access to practical skills to the youth in Kosovo. I would also like to highlight that maybe in the last 4 years, we believe that in Kosovo, we have better collaboration in terms of institutions. Lately, we started with Ministry of Education, Science and Technology, but also with the Ministry of Economic Development. We're working on this project that we also celebrate next week, the International Girls in ICT Day. And a part of the panels and speakers, we also have a job fair where we usually invite only tech companies that have open job position to pitch to the young girls in Kosovo. And actually, we have a hiring rate of 33% every year. So, yeah, I can continue, but I will let you further.
Thank you. you've been a big drive and a big contributor in this direction. So this is quite a big leap from, let's say, 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Tuta, how do climate change, conflict, gender, and technology connect?
So,
And a little bit of
no
background
biography.
story, please. No,
Okay.
just a little bit of background story.
Okay, thank you. First, I cannot start without expressing my gratitude being in a company of a change makers, of a very active, very positive energy women who are doing their utmost and making really changes in their environment. I am honored to be together with you. My name is Teuta Saachia. I am engineer. I am Master of Electronics and Computer Sciences, and I am believer in gender equality. These are things that do not change. During my life, I had opportunities to be in different positions. I've been a programmer, one of the first programmer in Kosovo, who programmed in 1985. Probably half of you or most of you haven't been born then. And write a program for salaries, for fintech, for inventory, and I lived from programming for quite some years. During all the time, I trained as much as I could, especially women, to get skills, digital skills at that time, and be independent economically. I've been member of parliament, I've been ambassador, and I'm very honored to have here permanent representative of Ecuador, my friend from New York, Griselda Lopez, so that makes me really feel good. And we had a great cooperation there. So it doesn't matter which hat you have that time. Every position is short term. Be sure to leave your position better than you found it. And I'm glad that even today, whenever I meet people, they come and they respect my work, that make me feel good. In 2019, I met Ayumi in New York, and something immediately clicked. We shared the same vision. We shared the same dream. And I saw in Ayumi that dream augmented a million times in a world, in a global, in universe sense. And I joined her immediately. And I'm very proud to be a part of a big network, of a global network of women in tech represented Kosovo in all these big network. We are together empowering women, giving women technical skills, and with those skills, women are resilient. Women are not victims. Women are change makers. And I will return to the question that you asked. We are here to talk about climate change, about women, peace and security, and about technology. In 1999, I was a refugee, together with a half of population of Kosovo. We lack of knowing where our loved ones were. There was no technology to show us what's happening, where we are, where our loved ones are. And I think only that is enough to explain why technology is so important in crisis situation, in war situation, in disaster situation, because it connects people, it empowers people. And in all these difficult situations, women are disproportionately touched. Women are usually victims. We are here and listen to the stories of women who were abused sexually during the war, who had very difficult moments seeing their loved ones killed or injured and not being able to help, even blaming themselves about what happened to them. And we need this to change. We need those women not to be only victims. We need those women to be on the table. When we are talking about peace, when we are talking about peace building, when we are talking about changes, not men to decide for all, because women are disproportionately touched. That's why in this panel, I think it's our duty, and our duty to expand it, to help women to sit in a table when negotiations for peace are done, to sit in a table when decisions are made for legislation, to sit in a table to allow resources for women to be the change makers and not the victims. Because there cannot be peace, there cannot be democracy, there cannot be life if half of population is considered only victim and out of decision making. And our duty is to do that, and each of us are doing in our ways, in our sector, and we want that to expand. Thank you.
Thank you, Tuta. This is the part where we make the panel just a little bit more dynamic, and we will have the chance to connect with one another, where we can, let's say, Elvira, you want to connect with some of what the panelists said, and then we can make it kind of a discussion and not just a question, answer. So I will leave it to you.
Thank you very much. Also, I just would like to highlight and to emphasize what Ayumi said about the new jobs that we will have in the coming years, especially those ones that do not exist anymore, for example, for 2030. And also, this related to the topic that we are discussing today about technology, climate change. Of course, the technologies will play a crucial role for helping and also for solve part of these problems. And again, I would like to highlight that education is the base for all these problems. And we need to prevent. It's much better to prevent than to treat. And again, coming for education, and especially we need, for example, to include much more all these technologies in all the disciplines that we are teaching at the universities, at the polytechnic schools. For example, artificial intelligence, Earth observation, advanced computing, using supercomputers. We need to also to change the way how we are teaching. Not only the way that we are teaching our students, but also we need to change the curricula of our courses. So this is mandatory. And also this is not only for the new students, for the next generations, but also for the adults. Because we need to recycle, also we need to learn, the adults need to learn all these type of technologies in order also to be inclusive. Otherwise we will promote more inequalities with the development of technologies. And also I would like to give you some examples about what we have done in Portugal. And for example, in my government, also we increase and we allocate around 250 million euro for STEAM disciplines, not only for the new generations, but also for the adults, as I mentioned. And also I would like to give another example that we are quite proud in Portugal, which is related, for example, with Ciência Viva, a science museums. Ciência Viva, or Life Science, has already 27 years in Portugal. We have a very large network of science museums all over Portugal. We have 21 museums on science, and as you know, science diplomacy is quite important, because science, we don't have barriers, we don't have gender, we don't have nationalities when we are talking about science. So science, I guess it is also a very good tool for all these problems. And within this network of 21 science museums, we have around 900 science clubs inside the schools. And also nowadays we are getting very nice results. For example, from the last survey of Eurobarometer, Portugal leads the group of countries with the greatest interest in science and technology issues. For example, in 2010, only 14% of respondents showed an interest in these matters, far away from the 62% who said yes in 2021. And almost 30 percentage points separate Portugal from the European average. And for example, in the area of scientific literacy, Portugal leads. Portugal is #1 at the European level concerning the importance and trust of science. And again, this is related to the education, all these science museums and science life. We started almost 30 years ago, and now we are getting all these results. So just some good examples. Also, I guess these forums here, we have the opportunity to share the best practices we are doing in our countries, and also we are doing in our professions. And also these are some 2 examples that I would like to share with you. Thank you very much.
Ayumi, would you like to add something to that?
Well, I just want to say that Doutora Elvira Fortunato, she's a role model for me, but for so many women, not only in Portugal, but around the world. I've been following her career ever since I discovered when I founded Women in Tech, and when I first went to Portugal, it was back in 2018. We met a couple of years ago, but she didn't remember me because I was just watching her get her award. And so to be able to be sharing a panel, it's a great privilege and honor. I'm very happy. Muito obrigada, doutora. And I think the most important thing that I really agree with her is the power of education. I think we cannot change the world if don't put education at the core center of everything that we do. I myself, I just started learning again. I went back to school. God, I'm suffering. But you know, we have to. So I'm doing an EGBA right now, and I'm choosing. We can choose different topics, and I'm learning about. I'm focusing my research paper on artificial intelligence and the unconscious bias that we have. And it really opened up my mind because, God, last time I was at school was like maybe 20 years ago, 25 or 30 years ago. And I think we forget how quickly the world changes and how much knowledge there is there. But without that knowledge, we cannot think for ourselves and make the right decisions. I think we have to remain curious throughout our life. And also, once again, as you said, so that we can be like in correlation with the job market. You know, I think the life expectancy today of women and men are so much longer, especially for women, so we're very thinking. So women, more than anyone, should be able to carry on educating themselves because they're also going to be educating, you know, their families and the children and the villages. And this amount of knowledge, that's what's going to be able to make change. Because we can change laws, we can change things, but if you don't change a mindset comes with culture and with knowledge, and being more open-minded about what things are happening in the world. I think we have to have a very intersectional point of view and way of doing things, because technology is not alone, and you know, security is not alone, and wars. We have to put everything together, and this comes with working with different people, different cultures, and this is also education. I think education broadens your mind, makes people so much more tolerant, and this is what we need in the world today so very much, right? So I think, yes, education is the core of it. And thank you, Dr. Elvira, for highlighting this and giving best practices, because we don't have to reinvent the wheel every time. I think if it's something learned, it worked in Portugal, we've seen for the past 30 years, why don't we do it elsewhere? We have everything. So, yes, let's continue and make sure that women are involved in every step of the way.
Hava, given the current situation, especially right now, throughout the world with the conflicts and everything, and especially with concerns about data privacy and surveillance, how can LinkedIn assure its users that their data is safe, especially in conflict-prone regions where actually information can be weaponized?
Thank you for the question. Before I answer, I just want to thank all of you, each one of you that took the time to come here and listen to us. I hope it's useful and you're getting something out of it. I especially want to thank my neighbor. In terms of the question, data security, I think it's a topic right now that is very much in, because these days you don't have to wage a war anymore in classic way. You can wage with your data, and you can attack a country by attacking their data. So it is super, super important to protect the data. And as far as LinkedIn, it does a really great job when it comes to protecting the data. Encryption is just an example. All the data that passes, that we collect, also the one that we store, are encrypted. Even for me, that I work with data, I cannot see your guys' information. Everything is encrypted. Even when I send to like a colleague, it's encrypted. So that's just the first step. Second is the secure infrastructure that we have in our database. From beginning where the data is collected till the end, it's very secure. We make sure we audit. We put a lot of money and emphasis to make sure that is very safe against any breaches or firewalls or any malintentions from around the world. Another thing that LinkedIn adopted is GDPR. For those of you that do not know, GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation, and it was enacted in Europe in 2018. It's a law that protects the data. From 2018, we put a lot of money and emphasis to adopt the law. What does this mean? What does this law mean? So this law means that you as a user, you have to give consent when you give the data to us as an organization. So you have to tell, yes, I want you guys to take this information from me. Also, you are in charge of the data. So if you want to go back and say, please erase the data, we have to erase the data. We cannot use it anymore. So you can connect with your data at any point in time. Additionally, we have to be transparent in the way that we use the data. So it has to be full transparency. And if for some reason there is a breach, we have 72 hours to notify you as a user that the data was breached. On top of this, we have to be, again, super transparent. Put everything is online, basically. You just go and see the way that we are using the data. And if for some reason we don't comply, that means 20 million euros for the organization. So we have to make sure we are compliant. Another thing that LinkedIn puts a lot of emphasis is education. Again, education. It's a topic theme here across the panel. Educating not only our users on how to protect their information, how to create strong passwords, but also educating us as employees on how to use the data, how to protect the data, what not to share outside the organization. And then lastly, with AI being the topic currently, with its advantages come also disadvantages. We have seen some fake accounts being created on LinkedIn. So what LinkedIn is doing is creating models, and that will help detect those fake accounts and immediately block them. So if by any chance you see a fake account, please go ahead and notify the team to make sure it is being blocked. And I'm happy to say that LinkedIn is one of the best network when it comes to protecting data, when it comes to the number of fake accounts that are so little compared to other platforms. Thank you.
Thank you, Hava. Tamara, just before we came in, we were talking about the silo approach and the complications that come from the silo approach. Does everyone know what a silo approach is? You know, the silos where you basically store the grain and basically is keeping it to yourself. When someone is being siloed, they're not going to tell you anything. They're just going to keep everything for themselves. And this poses quite an issue, especially in diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also education. To your experience, especially with your initiatives, not only on the public sector, but also on the private sector, can you give us some more insight how important it is to eliminate the silos?
Thank you. I'm again going to try to add value and springboard off of my fierce, amazing panelists here. There was a mention around how technology and education can serve as a catalyst. There was also a mention around the culture and values, which are the core of everything. And then you talk about the silos. What I get super excited about is, so I got to be a minister of technology, but I didn't study programming. I studied psychology. So I'm preaching to the choir now, but we each have our own superpowers, and being more acutely aware about what they are, each of us will be acting more from a space of abundance rather than scarcity, which is what Teuta was talking about. And so just adding to the thread, I think if we empower our teammates and our teams with these tools, so they can jam leaning on their superpowers, and they may be not the tech skills, but the soft, what I call power skills, we will be better as teams. And so just want to provide a couple of quick kind of shout outs. It's these tools that we've open sourced. We put together a digital academy, which includes the curriculum around these soft/power skills that you can also, while we did it in government, you can also apply to any of your teams. The skills around, or the lessons learned around how do you handle conflict in a team, leaning on the books like Crucial Conversations. When you get triggered, what do you do? How do you build a space of psychological safety? How do you create a space in which everybody is going to have a chance, even introverts, like actually I am a big introvert, will have space to speak by setting up a norm of speaking one end at a time. There's myriad of resources that we can set as leaders in our teams to create that space to empower introverts to just build more compassionately and to shape our values more intentionally. So I just wanted to kind of shout out on this kind of soft/power space that I know we are all working on. Sometimes it's forgotten, goes back to your silos. It's sometimes, sadly, like I think in Balkans, we have this tendency to do this, and I think we are all here trying to say, okay, if we lift each other up, and if we build more transparency, to Hava's point, openly, we'll just add on each other's superpowers. I think I've talked enough, so I'll leave more space for going back to the one end of the time, going back to these wonderful ladies here.
I just wanted to mention, so Tamara, she's opening a Women in Tech chapter in Montenegro, and I'm very, very proud. Thank you.
And also, I'd like to add, for being an introvert, you're a great example of how great you're in public speeches. So, I mean, Abetare, you've already gave us some really great examples. Maybe we need some more. And especially based on your contribution in the area of education, technology, what programs or let's say interventions that you did have had impact in what areas so far? And maybe is there any way we can also talk about the online education in regards to this?
Yes, since we touched a bit online education as a topic, I'm going to mention maybe just one example that would highlight our contribution. When the pandemic happened, we know that Kosovo didn't have a very well education system to switch from offline on being online. So basically in Kosovo, only private schools, so students from private school had access to education. So during that time, and it was 1 year after the pandemic, we collaborated with UN Women Office in Kosovo, and with the support of some international funders, in this case British Embassy, we kicked off a project called Returning Back to Normal. What we did is that we went to the villages that no one knew maybe that they exist. They had zero internet connection for sure, or maybe 30% of the whole village had access to education, had access to internet. So people were going into one house, being all together to just get access online and listen to the schools and what the teachers were presenting. So what we did is that we provided them with laptops. We also work closely with internet providers to make sure that those areas are equipped with internet. And then we also trained them. We did a pre-test and then also an exit test to see what is their knowledge in the field of technology. And we realized that 90% of them didn't know how to open an email, how to access to email. So we did this basic intervention, I would say, or basic introduction to ICT when we did these trainings and when we equipped all these young girls in the rural areas. And I'm very proud to say that even today, because that was a very sensitive group of audience, and we had to work not only with, their parents directly because they were young, but we also had to work with the centers of, how they're called in English, a center of social offices in Kosovo, so that they would appoint us few members to support us and make sure that we're really going to the families or to those young girls who were in need for those laptops and for the education. Today we also have an ongoing project with Teuta and Women in Tech Kosovo. And I'm happy to share that when we first brainstormed about AI and cybersecurity, and this was 2 years ago, as a topic was very unknown in Kosovo back then, but we had the ambassador of Netherlands in Kosovo who believed in our brainstorming meeting idea. And today the project is 1.5 years old, and we managed to train a young group of students in the fields of AI and cybersecurity. And 3 most successful ones, we're taking them to the global summit of women in tech in Paris that Ayumi is hosting. So thank you.
Thank you, Abetara. And we have the last question for this panel, as we are tight on time. But don't worry, we will have the chance for some Q&As, but we will do this outside of this hall, so on the drinks area, where we can also network and connect with the panelists. And the last question for Teuta, what solutions we need to make to secure inclusive peace building in a high-tech era?
Thank you, Gent. I think the education was mentioned, and very rightfully. And I don't want to lose the opportunity to, again, to show the vision of Ayumi, who get the agreement with the European Business University in Luxembourg to have for women in tech and like-minded people to have certificate courses and even masters with a very low price. And since we all over the world shared the information, it's probably around 70, 80, maybe 100 people from Kosovo who took different certificate courses, and I know 4 of them who finished masters in data science and artificial intelligence. I got 8 courses, business management, artificial intelligence, machine learning, natural language processing, blockchain, Python, and some more. And I think that everything, when you divide, when you share, becomes smaller. It's only education, when you share, become bigger. And that's the beauty of education. And in all of us, in some way, we are doing that. I remember with Abetare, when we talked to Ambassador of Netherlands, it was before ChatGPT was public. and we mentioned OpenAI and wanted artificial intelligence to be. They said, but what's that? Thankfully, she believed, and now she is proud that it was the first project to start with artificial intelligence for young girls, and 3 of them are coming with us to Paris in a global summit. But beside education, since I've been for a long time member of parliament, part of a government, I know that it's very nice, very important to have educated people with upskilling them in newest technologies. But decisions are made in government. Decision is made in parliament. That's why I think that we need also to have that in focus, to speak, to train, to upskill, to make awareness to decision making, and ask women to be an active part of decision making. Ayumi is studying, and her work is about biases. We are not even aware how many biases are. And artificial intelligence is all about machine learning and data sets. Data sets are 85 to 90% male data. So how can machine learn unbiased data when it's fed by biased data? Not only will replicate the biases, with the computational power of artificial intelligence, it will augment. That's why we need strongly to work in legislation, with legislator, with government, to be aware of biases, to work with programmers, with companies like yours, to be aware of biases and to make awareness to software programmer when they do AI software, to eliminate or at least to minimize the biases. We need to talk, because social impact of artificial intelligence will touch everybody. It is not only works. What is the government's response in the jobs that will not exist? It will produce a lot of unemployed, and more repetitive works are jobs of women. So women will be the first to centrifuge outside of a job market. What are we doing? Is government doing something to address this? Is health doing something? Is education doing something to address this? And the third part, that what every one of us are doing. Not everyone needs to be programmer or know Python or to know libraries and machine learning, but all of us need to know to use AI tools for their existing jobs and to be prepared for the next job that technology is bringing.
Thank you for the strong and very valid points, Tuhuta. We've overreached our time by 5 minutes, so I would just like one more round of applause for the panelists and their insights. It was an honor and privilege to moderate this panel, so thank you everyone, and also big thanks to the President's Office of the Republic of Kosovo and all the stakeholders involved in organizing this forum. So please, we will have the chance to connect and network outside the hall, so thank you again.